Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. Quality nutrition shouldn't be complicated. Just 2 scoops of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake, and you've got 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Whether you're craving that coffee taste to kickstart your morning ritual, or as a nutrient-packed reward to round out your afternoon, Kachava keeps you fueled and satisfied wherever your day takes you. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. And for the times you feel like switching it up, you've got 7 flavors to choose from, all with the highest quality ingredients. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code FITNESS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code FITNESS.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Johnny Venezia. He does absolutely tremendous work over at Rotowire. He also does his own podcast, a Breaking Bet podcast, and we're going to chat with him about the success we're seeing with a lot of these rookies and younger players thus far this season. We're going to dive in on what we've been seeing in terms of the disappointment of the Mets and the Phillies as well. I'm not going to talk too much about that. We're also going to talk about a surprise or two that he's seen thus far this season. I know that he's got a little bit of affinity for what we've seen on the Reds this season, so we're going to highlight the young guys here in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, RCM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, we did have ourselves a fun day of baseball on Monday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Minnesota Twins absolutely take down the Seattle Mariners, this by a count of 11-4 as Luis Castillo, he goes for 5 innings and he gives up 7 runs, all of which were earned. This was not what he was looking for. Cody Clemens took him deep, 3rd home run season. Byron Buxton hit his 6th home run in the campaign. Now Cal Raleigh, big dumper, he was able to get home run number 7 of the season, but a little bit too little too late as Connor Prelip, the starter, he was able to go out there for 5 innings. He gave up 2 runs. Andrew Morris was the man that gave up that home run. He gives up over the course of his 3 innings, 2 runs, and then you did have Taylor Rogers lend a scoreless inning for Cole Wilcox. He gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings for the Mariners out of the bullpen, and then you had 3 runs given up in 1 2/3 innings out of Alex Hoppe. He was very happy to be making his MLB debut, not so happy about the loss. Also not happy about the loss, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They fell to the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 4-2. Dustin May, pretty solid in this one. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. From there, Ryan Fernandez, 2 scoreless innings. George Soriano, 8 scoreless inning, and it was a piecemeal game for the Pirates as Mason Montgomery, a scoreless inning, Justin Lawrence, a scoreless inning, and then Wilbert Dotel in a bulk roll, 4 scoreless innings, and each of your first 3 starters gave up 0 hits, and then Evan Sisk, he gives up the first hit of the game, but 2/3 of an inning unearned. Isaac Madsen, a scoreless inning. Gregory Soto, a scoreless inning, and then Danny Santana. 4 runs, all of which were earned, given up in the 9th inning, including a pair of bombs. Pedro Paz, 3rd home run season. J.J. Weatherald, his 6th. So the St. Louis Cardinals, they enter in the 9th inning, down by a count of 2-0. They win by a count of 4-2, thanks to that. And you did have Cole Sanders giving an out of the bullpen scoreless as well. The Boston Red Sox, they've won each other last 3 games, 5-0. They take down the Blue Jays. They have yet to lose since the canning of Alex Cora. Again, I have to think that they knew on Saturday when they had that 17-run outburst that he was going to get fired. That's just me me personally. And for Ranger Suarez, boy, what a great start. Won it in 8 shutout innings, 10 punch-outs. Greg Weiser to scoreless inning from there. Dylan Cease, well, cease and desist. 4 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. You would have a little bit later on Carlos Cervantes go deep for a second home run of the campaign as Joe Mantiply and Tommy Nance at a scoreless inning. And then Chase Lee, he gives up that solo home run allowed in his 1 1/3 innings. Also being able to get the job done, the New York Yankees, as it was a good day for the AL East. 4-2, they take down the Walker Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter gets lighted up. 4 runs allowed in 6 innings, gives up a trio of bombs. Jazz Chisholm, his 3rd of the season. Ben Rice, his 10th. Aaron Judge, his 11th. From there, you'd have Gavin Collier give you a scoreless inning, 2 scoreless innings out of Peyton Gray. And on the flip side for the New York Yankees, Max Fried was on it in this game. 6 scoreless innings. From there, Camilo Udval, he does give up a solo home run to Jock Peterson, 2nd home run of the season. David Bednar does not poop the Bednar, gives up an unearned run, hurt by a Jazz Chisholm fielding error, but Tim Hill, scoreless inning. So the Yankees, they're now 19-10, so they're certainly getting the job done. And the Tampa Bay Rays got the job done, 3-2. Hip-hip Rays for them. As for the Rays, Steven Matz, 2 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings, does give up a home run to Daniel Sheeman, his 4th home run of the campaign. Parker Messick, another nice start, 1 run allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Matthew Fessa, he had a fiesta and out of the bullpen scoreless. Eric Sabrowski, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but Hunter Gaddis gives it up here. 2 runs allowed in a 1/3 of an inning as Jonathan Aranda, his 7th home run of the season. Colin Olderman from there, 2 scoreless innings, but Ian Seymour, Brian Baker, they were both able to supply a scoreless inning. So the Rays 17-11 to start the season. In walk-off fashion, the LA Dodgers, they get the job done against the Miami Marlins. This by a count of 5-4 as for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, a little bit of a rough start here. He gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned. As for the Marlins, how about Liam Mixon, the season he's having thus far? 6th home run in the campaign. He goes deep off of Yamamoto as he went 5 innings. Bullpen from there did their part, though. Alex Vesia, Tanner Scott, Edgar Enriquez, and Jake Eater were all able to end scoreless innings. And for Chris Paddock, not long for this game, but wasn't terrible. 2 runs allowed in 4 innings. From there, John King was the king of a scoreless inning. Michael Peterson, great name. Andrew Nardi, they combined for 2 scoreless innings. Calvin Fauché, a scoreless inning, and then Pete Fairbanks came in the 9th inning. He gives up 3 runs while getting just 1 out of the bullpen. Yet trying to be able to get the win for the Miami Marlins, Tyler Phillips, he inherited pretty much a bases loaded, and he was unable to hold them on. As for the Dodgers walking it off, Kyle Tucker, RBI single to be able to get that one in, being able to get this one in. The Slam Diego Padres, 9-7, they take down the Chicago Cubs. Matthew Boyd, not what he was looking for here. 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. From there, Ben Brown was a little bit more sharp. Unearned run given up in his 2 innings of work, but Phil Matone, 2 runs allowed in an inning. Jacob Webb, he gives up a solo home run as Gavin Sheets, holy Sheets, he gets his 4th home run in the campaign. And Randy Vasquez, this was not what he was looking for, gets a win, but 5 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, including a pair of home runs. Sei Suzuki, I see you with home run number 5 of the campaign. Moises Ballesteros, 5th home run of the season. Then Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam, they combined for 3 scoreless innings. Mason Miller, he is human after all. He gives up 2 runs in an inning as you had Nico Horner get a fielder's choice. Dansby Swanson, he scores on a wild pitch. So some shenanigans there to be able to get 2 runs up on the board against him, but 2 runs were scored against him. And then do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. We are going into the 9th inning in the White Sox versus Angels game. You had a super long rain delay, so even though I'm recording this at 10:15 p.m. Pacific time, they are still going on, but 8-5, the White Sox are currently in the lead on the Angels. This is a White Sox bullpen, but they should be able to get it done here, even though Anthony Kay was not okay in this game. 4 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. As Waldo Beto on long relief was solid, though. He gives up 1 run over the course of 3 innings. That 1 run, a solo home run to Ore Soler. 6th home run in the campaign. Jordan Nix, Grant Taylor from there. They combine for a scoreless inning, and Jack Kachanowicz, honestly, not the world's worst start. 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in 6 innings, and then the LA Angels bullpen happened. Nick Sandlin, he got no outs out of the bullpen. He gave up 3 runs. Drew Pomeranz, he gave up a pair of runs in an inning. He inherited runners as Montaka Murakami, he was able to go deep for his 12th home run of the campaign. And then you had Miguel Vargas get his 6th home run of the campaign as well. From there, you've had Jose Fermin lend a scoreless inning. So White Sox, they should be able to get it done there. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been a very overwhelming season. The over hitting at just over 53.5%, 424 overs, 193 unders, and I believe 11 pushes along the way, if my math serves me correct. Favorites on the money line, they're hitting in that neighborhood about 55.5%, 233 and 188. Meanwhile, you look at the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, favorites having a good run of things, 52 and 38 on the money line, hair above 58% there, and the over 8 just a hair above 54%, 47 overs, 40 unders, and I believe we've had 3 pushes along the way as well. So that's where we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's chat it up with one of our good friends, Johnny Venezia, does such great work over at Rotowire, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man. We've got Johnny Venezia aboard. He does a great job taking a look at all forms of baseball. He does a great job on the MLB front, but also he does a great job week in and week out with college baseball as well. I know that he's got his weekly podcast going, the Breaking Bet Podcast. Find that wherever you find podcasts. He does a great job there. On top of that, I know that he's doing great work over at Rotowire as well, looking at things day in and day out on the baseball front. And if you're a fan of football, he's the Royal Mint creator as well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at _ his name, Johnny, with a H, because there's sometimes you have no H, sometimes you have an H. This one has an H, and then VTV all together. And Johnny, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
What's going on, Greg? Thanks for having me, bud.
Always great to have you aboard, and it's great to have you on right now because we're about a month through the season. I know you're a man that's very passionate about college baseball. You love it when these guys go from having success at the college level to having success at the pros, and, well, there's been no shortage of that here in the first month of the season. Just how have you taken a look at these young guys, whether they be on the Cardinals, there have been a few guys on the Rays, the Pirates, you just go down the list, and the amount of success that we're seeing with these young guys in their first and second year thus far this season?
Yeah, that's actually one of the topics that I really talk about a lot on my podcast and on different interviews. It's kind of crazy to see the transition from some of these guys, and it's been happening faster and faster as the years have progressed. Now, something as simple as this year's rookie class. We're seeing a lot of these guys that I've seen in college that were stars, like J.J. Weatherholt, for instance. Not only was Weatherholt somebody that I felt very well could have went number 1 overall to Cleveland a couple years ago in the draft. But this is a guy I felt like was going to come up almost immediately and have great success. And that's why coming to the year, I felt like he was the best bet for NL Rookie of the Year. While he's done fantastic, it's been a case for a lot of these guys. I mean, you got Paul Skeens coming up right away, just dominating. You got my boy Chase Burns, who's coming up and dominating. A guy I think is very much in the mix for a Cy Young candidacy this year if he stays healthy and doesn't get slapped with an innings limit. And I think realistically, it's just because the game has changed. These kids in college are playing such high level of competition that is preparing them week in and week out for when they finally make the jump. They're able to move through really fast in the minor league system and make a splash in the major leagues. And, that's really what's happening. And that's why these guys are coming up so quick and just having so much success.
Yeah, it's been wild to be taking a look at it. And obviously, you mentioned J.J. Weatherholt, and I would say so far so good for him. But how do you take a look at that National League Rookie of the Year race? Because I think that one is going to be so interesting because we've seen the young guns over with the Pirates. Obviously, we just mentioned the Cardinals with Weatherholt being the main guy over there. And it just feels like there's a lot of guys in the mix right now for that award.
Yeah, so I'm going to preface this by saying what I wrote up in my Rotowire article preseason about the awards. I love J.J. Weatherholt coming into the year. I've been waiting to bet him for an award like this for probably the last 3 years. Because I circle these guys. When they're at college, I'm like, hey, can't wait to bet on their strikeout props or MVP or Rookie of the Year or Cy Young, whatever it is, when they get to the big leagues and it's their time. What I said is take betting out of it. because I think nowadays everything's tied to betting. But taking the odds and betting out of it, the guy that I picked preseason was JJ Weatherholt. Just straight up a guy off pure analysis, because I know what he's capable of. I've watched him for several years in college, knowing what he's capable of doing. But I also said the odds are too short. These rookie classes are too deep. And I mentioned this last year, like these classes are so deep now. And baseball is different than football, Greg, where you get a guy that gets drafted, say a wide receiver that's going to play the whole season. It's not like that, because these guys got to go through the minor leagues, and then you don't know when they're going to get called up, or are they going to have enough at-bats or enough innings, whatever the case may be. So with the amount of talent, you got to wait until later in the year. And Greg, you remember this. I had Nick Kurtz last year. I didn't end up taking Nick Kurtz until right before he got called up. Nick Kurtz wasn't even a favorite until right around July 4th last year. Jacob Wilson was minus 1,000 at one point. And I said, look, I love Jacob Wilson, but it's so early. There's other guys that can win. And despite how well Sal Stewart's doing, I'm not rushing to the bandwagon to bet Stewart, because there's other guys in the mix. They're not even up in the major leagues. And the guy that I'm going to bring up, and I mentioned this as well in my Rotowire article, I talked about this preseason. Charlie Condon's going to be a guy that is going to probably have basically the same type of season Nick Kurtz had last year if he gets an early enough call-up, which quite frankly I think is going to probably happen in the next week or two. And it's based off nothing but just what he's done. For a guy like Condon, who's 100-1 right now, he is basically identical to Nick Kurtz. They're both the same stature, 6'5", 6'6". He's a righty instead of a lefty. Both contact, hit, and power tools to all field. Now he's going to be playing in Colorado. That's a place, as a ballpark where you want to be playing as an offensive guy. A guy like Charlie Condon, who put up one of the best college baseball seasons in the history of the sport in 2024, this is a guy that can really carry an offense when he gets hot. So there's points to be made for waiting for the right moment. Take a snapshot of what we have right now with the NL and AL Rookie of the Year race. There's a very good chance 2 months from now it's going to look drastically different. So that's why there's opportunities to wait on. Even somebody like Weatherholt, who was 4-1 before the season started, he's 10-1 in certain spots. I still think Weatherholt's going to be a good opportunity to buy, but I still think there's probably going to be a better number that comes across the board. So rather than jumping in on the window, like for somebody like Condon, I wouldn't be waiting, because he's going to get called up sooner than later, and 100-1 is likely not going to get much bigger. And this is a guy that realistically could hit 30+ home runs in 130 games if he gets called up in the next couple of weeks. So a lot of time to process. It's a long season. So I would definitely keep my eye on guys a little bit further down the board that have a chance to make an impact when their time comes.
Yep, and that's a great way of being able to look at things. And I've noticed this as well, as we do have our good friend Johnny Venezia. He does great work over at Rotowire, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. It feels like the teams that just have whiffed on a lot of their draft picks in terms of evaluating these young guys, they're the teams that are struggling right now. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm looking at you, the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm looking at you, the Mets. That as we're doing this podcast, the Phillies, they just finally snapped a 10-game losing streak, but they lost once again on Sunday. The Mets just got swept at home by the Colorado Rockies. They have won 2 out of their last 17 games. Like, what do you make out of these teams that have really struggled, / the teams that have really been able to ascend? Because I think that it's all tied into the evaluation process, being able to find these guys in college that can be able to produce for you right away, because the Cardinals and the Reds have been 2 very nice surprises thus far this season, and the teams that have flopped have been the teams that have just, it feels like, either whiffed on it or have not been really concerned about the draft altogether.
Well, so it's a double-edged sword, right? First of all, it's so early. We're barely a month into the season at this point. That's number one. Number two, I think in terms of evaluating talent, it's a slippery slope, because a lot of people don't understand the MLB draft. And I wouldn't call myself a professional on like the business and analytics side of the draft itself, not the players. But there's slot values. Each team is assigned for a certain slot. Now, in an MLB draft, sometimes you have to decide, hey, do I want to save a little bit money on an earlier round pick? That way I have more for later. And a lot of times what that means is reaching on a guy that probably wouldn't have been drafted in that spot, or do I want to go to a high school kid? Now, one of the things that I've been critical on, because it very rarely works out, is taking these high school kids over these established college players. It very rarely works out. Circle on your hand how many times we've seen an absolute superstar come out of high school. The last one we could probably say is Bobby Witt. I mean, Connor Griffin might be that kid, but it's a lot harder for these kids to come out of high school. For an instance like Colorado, right? I was very impressed on what Colorado did the last couple of drafts that they've had. Namely, they took my boy Chase Dollander, who I've been talking about to you since 2022. Dolly's my boy. He went on at the Mets, 7 shutties, 7 Ks on prime time. The thing is, you have some of these teams that haven't really been that good for a while, and they're getting better draft picks, having access to these top tier SEC, ACC level players, but it still requires you to make the pick and develop. Because, for instance, there's teams like, I don't want to single it out, but there's teams that really haven't made, in my opinion, the best picks. So it really all comes down to who you're picking and if you're able to develop them. Because what happens is sometimes, and it goes for the NFL as well, teams will draft somebody that has a big profile and they kind of get lost in what's in front of them, but they don't necessarily project for down the road. For instance, I'm not trying to single it out, but Travis Bazan is the number 1 pick in 2024 for Cleveland. I don't think it was a bad pick, but I was very vocal in saying I don't think it was the right pick. I thought there were 6 or 7 better players that I would have taken over Bazan if I was Cleveland. They could have took Nick Kurtz. They could have took Chase Burns. They could have took J.J. Weatherholt. And like I said, I'm not saying Bazan is going to be a bad player. I think he's going to be a good player. But it's like when you have an opportunity to take some of these guys over other people. You look at Washington last year. They had a chance to draft Cade Anderson to rebuild their pitching staff. They didn't. They picked Eli Willits, a high school kid who's got a lot of development to go. Or you look at the Nationals a couple of years ago. They took Dylan Cruz, and I love Dylan Cruz, but you could have took Wyatt Langford. You remember this because we talked about this. Wyatt Langford is my guy. I felt like Wyatt Langford was going to be the next Mike Trout, and I felt like he was going to be a way better pick than Dylan Cruz. You go back to a few years ago with Washington, while we're on the national subject, they took Seaver King in the top 10. I like Seaver King at Wake Forest, but I don't think he deserved to go top 10. They could have took Trey Savage. They could have took Braden Montgomery. Like, these teams sometimes pass on these better players because they're going with the slot value and they're forfeiting an opportunity to take a better player with a higher projectable upside. And that's the thing with the MLB as well. These teams go for the guy that might project higher than what you have right now. And it's a big balancing act. And Greg, I got to be honest, man, sometimes these teams make the wrong call. I'm not saying I'm the all-knowing scout report, but off face value, it just looks like some of these teams don't always make the correct call. And then when they get their guy, they're not able to develop him because it's a hard job to do in the MLB, man.
Yep, and it's a little bit more of an arduous process in baseball as well, because typically when you draft someone in the NBA, NFL, they're right out there, night number 1. You very, 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 very rarely see that in Major League Baseball in this day and age. There aren't a lot of Paul Skeens guys out there, as we do have Johnny Venezia, who does such great work over at Rotowire, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And certainly we've talked a lot about these rookies, these younger guys, and I mentioned the disappointments right here in Major League Baseball. But just when you take a look at the overall league, we're now about a month through the season. Is there a team or two that's been a surprise, whether it be to the positive or the negative? And you think that it can be a mainstay, that maybe they're either a disappointing start to the season or their tremendous start to the season is something that has lasting value that maybe we didn't see coming into the season?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not surprised by this because I was actually thinking of taking a bet on them. But like I said, I'd like to wait to see what it comes through. The A's were a team I was really, really interested on because I saw them last year. And once Nick Kurtz came up, the whole thing changed for them. Their offense is great, and they had a great offense coming into this year. Like, they are littered with talent. I think Brent Rooker just got put on the injured list, if I'm not mistaken. But I felt like the A's were going to be a real threat in the AL West. But the reason why I didn't take them off the bat was because I wasn't sure about their pitching. Like, they have pitching in the wings here. My boy Jamie Arnold out of Florida State is going to be a frontline starter for them probably next year. I wasn't 100% sure if they had enough pitching juice in order to really make that stick. Like, they've gotten some positive contributions, but this is really an offensive driven team right now. And that's how it's going to have to be if they're going to really compete and make the playoffs. But, the A's were definitely at least worth consideration for me. Like, I thought they were going to really have a shot. And, Greg, I've been saying this probably like the 3rd or 4th year I've said this. I've been waiting on the Cincinnati Reds to step up, win the NL Central, and make a run to the World Series. So far through the year, they're leading the charge in the NL Central. It's nice to see. Sal Stewart definitely had a big reason. I've been critical about the Reds of their failures because of their offense just is not good enough. Outside of Eleanor Roosevelt de la Cruz, they didn't really have anybody. Sal Stewart stepping up. He's taking on that role. That has to continue to develop. But really, the reason why I always loved the Reds was their pitching. I mean, I know you lose Hunter Green, but they have no shortage of arms. Let's bring it up again. My boy Chase Burns. This is a guy I truly believe coming into the year was a NL Cy Young candidate if he stays healthy. Because when he transferred to Wake Forest in July of 2023, I said once Wake polishes him up, I believe he's got the higher MLB ceiling than Paul Skeens. Doesn't mean it would happen right away, but I mean, we've seen what this kid can do. You got Rhett Lauder, you got Brady Singer. Like, you have possibilities for the Cincinnati Reds to make that splash as long as their offense keeps contributing. And, if Sal Stewart keeps doing his thing, they pick up a piece or two at the deadline. Maybe the Reds can make that run into the playoffs. Because when you can pitch in the postseason, you usually have a really good chance. But I mean, in terms of maybe what we have elsewhere, I think it's fair to say the Braves have looked great, 20-9. They have a very comfortable lead over the NL East. Even despite the injuries to Schwellenbach and Strider and Hurston Waldrop, like, they've gotten their contributions going. This is a team that definitely looks like it's a force to be reckoned with again in the NL to be able to challenge the Dodgers. But for me right now, it's just so early, to really make these assumptions that it's like too soon or too late for a certain team. So far, that's what I've seen. I guess one more thing I'd like to mention is I felt like I would see a little bit more from the Boston Red Sox. It's obviously been a slow start for them. I don't think it's too late for them. But obviously, they're going through some turmoil. They basically got cleaned house for their managerial and front office staff. So hoping that could kind of reignite the fire in them.
Yep, they're going to need to have a little bit more zeal at the plate. It's been a little bit rough for their offense. And to your point about the Reds, two former Wake Forest pitchers, Rhett Lauder along with Chase Burns, really leading the charge there. So that's been fun. And also the number one bullpen in terms of ERA as well. So I do think that's going to be a mainstay. And what's always a mainstay is great content from you, Johnny. You're doing such a great job with the Breaking Bet podcast. You're over on Rotowire, both college and professional baseball. So love the good people at home. Know it's all on tap for you. I know people can follow on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, appreciate the plug. On Twitter, _Johnny VTV. And I got my Breaking Bet podcast, as you so eloquently mentioned. And of course, my articles on Rotowire, where I'm putting everything down on the written word, going a little bit more in detail, sharing some stuff, and giving the people the future superstars of tomorrow. We talked about Paul Skeens, Chase Burns. Well, buddy, let me tell you, my guy, my pitcher this year is going to be a superstar. That's going to be an NL Rookie of the Year, AL Rookie of the Year candidate in the next year or two. That's Jackson Flora out of UC Santa Barbara. That's going to be a dog, bro.
I love it. The former Gaucho. I always love the Gauchos when it comes to college basketball. They obviously have a great baseball program as well. They and UC Irvine, Zot for the Anteaters. Absolutely love it. And I always love getting Johnny aboard. He does such a great job looking at this great game of baseball. And he's able to spot those guys that they become future superstars in a year or two. He is able to give them to you right now. And he's telling you to buy stock. And absolutely love it. Big thanks to Johnny for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Johnny Venezia. He does such great work over at Rotowire, does a tremendous job with his podcast, the Breaking Bet podcast. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Johnny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Now, as I'm recording this, a few TBDs on the National League side of things, so I'll do my best to help you guys persevere there. Let's get things started with one of those CBDs. 951, 952 on the card. It is the Reds. They are going to be playing host to the Colorado Rockies. We do know that Chase Burns is on the bump for the Reds. It's to be determined for the Rockies, so this game is off the board. It's looking like all signs are pointing towards Tomoyuki Sugano, and if you do get Sugano going up against Burns, set the money line price of the Reds at a minus 232. We'll be willing to lay up to a minus 115 on that run line and set a total of an 8.2, 8 or less, and on the over 8.5 or higher. The under would need at least a plus 233 to be able to take a shot on the Colorado Rockies. I'm just not big on Tomoyuki Sugano because, even though he's got a relatively respectable 3.42 ERA this season, he gives out 2.1 walks per 9 innings. No deception here whatsoever. 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings, closer to a 484 fielding dependent. Now pitching at Great American Small Park, that's honestly great. And for Chase Burns last year, he had just an incredible amount of strikeouts. That's been down a little bit this season, but still 2.57 ERA, 9.5 strikeouts per 9. That is certainly going to play. Does have a fielding dependent a little bit closer to a 4, but for the Rockies last year, dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home. They always just have big home and road splits because coming down from elevation, that's relatively rough. And you have had some of these younger players being able to step it up for the team. Troy Johnson is hitting above a 300 right now. You've had TJ Brownfield do a nice job moving the line, and Eduardo Julian is not going to give you power, but I thought that was a nice pickup in the offseason. Obviously, you've had Mickey Moniak do a solid job being able to give this team over a 340 on base. He's been able to slug out 8+ home runs, but much of that success has come at home. Last year, he had big home and road splits. Brenton Doyle did as well. Now, what I do like about the Rockies, this has been a much improved bullpen from a season ago. Recognize that they gas canned that game against the San Diego Padres about a week or so ago, but look at this Rockies bullpen, 11th in terms of ERA at a 3.69, which may not sound like it's knocking your socks off, but when you're playing half your games at Coors Field, that's actually really good, as you've got a lot of guys that last year had a sub 4.25 ERA like Jay Nill, Juan Mejia, Jimmy Harrigan, Victor Vodnik. Vodnik has had a rough start to the season, but picking up Brandon Bernardino in the offseason I thought was solid as well. And then on the other end of things, you've got a bunch here in the Cincinnati Reds that they've been number one in terms of bullpen ERA for much of the season. Did have a little bit of shakiness in that series against the Detroit Tigers, but Graham Ashcraft, Tony Santillan, sub 3 ERAs out of both of these guys. Brock and Roll Burke, Pierce Johnson, both of these guys had a sub 3.50 ERA. Lions season both are at a sub 3.75 right now. Emilio Pagan, I really don't trust it. And for the Reds, I do think that the lineup is going to figure it out a little bit. You've had cousin Sal Stewart be incredible for the team, right around about a 385 on base. He's been able to slug out 9 home runs along with Ellie De La Cruz. You've had and Eugenio Suarez give you a little bit of power, 3 home runs. You expect a little bit more there. Last year at 49 home runs, he's been a little bit more consistent in terms of moving the line than in the past, but the big key here are these guys at the bottom of the lineup. Whenever you've had Navoli Marte, who I think that they sent down to the minor leagues, we haven't seen him in a while, he, Cabrian Hayes, Tyler Stevenson, TJ Friedel up at the plate, they're all giving you a sub 300 on base, or all hitting below the Bedell sign of a 200, so that's been a little bit of an issue, but do think that with the Reds having that meat of the order really clicking, that they get to Scano and get the job done. 8 or less like the over, 8.5 higher the under. One to lay up to minus 115 on that Reds run line. Plus 233 or better looking at the Rockies. 953, 954 on the card. The Phillies are going to be playing goes to the Giants as you've got Tyler Mahle on the bump for the Giants. Jesus Luzardo goes for the Phils. The Phils are a big size favorite here. Anywhere between minus 165 to minus 175. Between plus 140 to plus 146 is that number on the San Francisco Giants. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8.5. Unders minus 125. The over is plus 105 on the 8. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. I did take a shot here on the under. I saw my total at 7.7. Now you look at the ERA of our good friend Jesus Luzardo. It's not great to say the least. Right now for Jesus Luzardo, his ERA is right now clocking in at a 6.91, but the 324 fielding dependent, 10.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1 home run allowed per 9. That speaks to a lot of positivity. And for Tyler Mahle, it's been a rough start to the season for him. 5.26 ERA, 2.1 home runs, 4.9 walks allowed per 9 innings. But last season, 2.18 ERA, 0.5 home runs per 9 innings. No doubt a big beneficiary of how pitcher friendly the ballpark in Arlington is. But I do think that we're going to see some positive regression with him because, frankly, both of these pitchers are facing off against lineups that have not been very good this year. The Giants are 29th in terms of run creation with about 3.45 runs per game. Phillies averaging closer to about 3.6 runs per game. Phillies typically a little bit better at home rather than away from home in terms of run production, but I mean, both of these lineups have been just very lackadaisical, to say the least. Now, Bryce Harper is giving you over 350 on base. He's been able to get online with 5+ home runs. Kyle Schwarber, even though he's hitting for no average whatsoever, he's been able to give you 8 home runs, but a lot of the infielders just have not lived up to their billing. Trey Turner down for what? Hitting just a 230. You expect more there. Alec Bohm is hitting a $143. You have to wonder if the off-the-field stuff is affecting him on the field. Justin Crawford, after a nice start to the season, that's going more to the outfield. He's giving you only about a 245 average with no power. Bryson Stott hitting a 221. So these guys are just really not moving the line. And for the San Francisco Giants, it does feel like the offense has been a little bit better here over the last few weeks, but still, you're leaving a lot to be desired because there's not a ton of power. Casey Schmidt has stepped up. He's been able to give you 4 home runs and about a 350 on base. And I mean, you've got guys that are hitting for average. Luis Arias, Jungle Lee are both hitting above a 300. You've been able to get a small sample size out of Eloy Ramos, where he's been able to hit about a 265, and he had a rough first week or so of the season, so he's starting to step up a little bit. And when it comes to Matt Chapman, no power, but about a 355 on base. Additionally, for the Giants, they've been pretty good in their bullpen as well. Last year, 4th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. They're back in the top 7 thus far this season. This despite the fact that you haven't necessarily had Eric Miller be able to duplicate the sub-225 ERA that he had a season ago, but still, you have been able to get good production out of Matt Gage, along Keaton Wynn, who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Ryan Walker is starting to find it. He's down to about 3 ERA. Blade Tidwell has come out of nowhere along Caleb Killian to be able to give you some good innings, and for the Phillies, you do have Yohan Duran currently on the injury list, so that is no doubt going to be hurting this bullpen, as Jose Alvarado has not been the same guy since the drug suspension. Orion Kirkering coming off the injury list, that should be able to help them out a little bit though, and I do think that both of these starting pitchers are going to have themselves a nice time of it. For the Phillies, I set their money line price at a -166. If you're looking to lay a run half, right now that's about a +125, seeing as good as +135. Personally, I'm going to stick with that -160 money line. I recognize that it's chalky, but going to be willing to lay it because I do think that it's going to be a lower scoring game. 7-by-12, 7.7, also like the under. 9:55, 9:56 on the card. This is another one of the TBD games as the Pirates play host to the St. Louis Cardinals. Kyle Leahy goes for St. Louis. Right now, it's all to be determined on the bump for the Pirates. This is a game that is presently off the board. If you're looking through the grapevine, right now the projected starter is Bubba Chandler for the Pirates, but we also know that Braxton Ashcraft got pushed back a day. Right now, if it were to be Bubba Chandler, I'd be setting this money line more around about a -147 for the Pirates. If it's Ashcraft, probably closer to about a -155 or so, and either way, it's going to be an 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under, regardless of these two pitchers. And if you do indeed get Ashcraft, who's going to be going in this game, he's been able to be very rock solid. And for Chandler, more of a 4.88 ERA, but the fielding independent numbers and the overall strikeout stuff does lead me to believe that there's going to be a little bit of positivity there. Meanwhile, with regards to Ashcraft, he's been able to do a nice job going out there, giving you 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings thus far this season. Felt like yesterday they just wanted to give these guys a little bit of a rest. You've got young pitchers like Chandler, Ashcraft, obviously Paul Skeens, who have been guys that have pitched a little bit more than what you'd expect at the big league level, and they want to be able to preserve their arms throughout the season, so makes sense as to why they did that. And then for Kyle Leahy, he was a bullpen piece last year for the Cardinals, and the bullpen without him has not been very good. They're currently in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and after posting up a sub-350 ERA in the bullpen last year, it's been a rough go of it for Leahy. A 5.63 ERA, he's not made the transition the world's greatest. The command has been all over the place, 4.1 walks per 9 innings, just 5.5 strikeouts per 9, 5.63 ERA to go with a 5.67 fielding dependence. Both are very much matching up here. For the Cardinals, what has been the saving grace for this team has been the offense. They've been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. They really didn't get a lot of that yesterday, but still, Jordan Walker has been able to give you 8 home runs. He's hitting a 275 with a 350 on base. Ivan Herrera and J.J. Weatherholt, both of these guys are hitting only about a 230 or so, but both of them give you over 350 on base. Mason Wynn is hitting a 260 along Nathan Church, who had a big weekend series against the Seattle Mariners. They've had Pedro Pajes and a few others be a little bit shaky after a good start to the year. Victor Scott seems to have regressed a little bit, but all in all, it's been a pretty solid lineup. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, last year they were dead sinking last in terms of run creation. Much better this year. Ryan O'Hearn has really a change of fortunes of the team, over a 400 on base, and last year 20 plus home runs. He's been able to supply the boom once again this season. You've got Oniel Cruz, who he has been much better in terms of moving line, getting on base. Did get the day off yesterday. You do want to be checking in just in case of injury, because the understudies are not necessarily the world's greatest, but even Spencer Horwitz is giving you about a 370 on base. Marcell Ozuna, you have to think that he's going to be better than the 230 on base that he's shown thus far this season. And for the Pirates, they have been a pretty solid bullpen thus far this season. In the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, you don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, Isaac Manson, sub-3 ERAs, and Justin Lawrence. He was really good last year over a 5 ERA. You have to think that it regresses a little bit. Don't necessarily trust Gregory Soto, but that said, Danny Santana last year, he had a sub-275 ERA, and then on the flip side for the Cardinals, Jojo Romero last year was pretty solid, but even he has had his issues. This is a team that is very much in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Ryan Stanek is just absolutely awful right now. He's posting up an ERA that's well above a 7. Matt Savanson, an ERA above a 10. Chris Roycroft, whenever he's gotten opportunities, I believe that they have sent him down to the minors. He's been rough. Justin Brule, 5 ERA. Ryan Fernandez, Gordon's good stuff have been okay, but past that, it's been a bullpen that has not been trustworthy. So minus 155 or better if you get Ashcraft. Looking at the Pirates on the money line, more around about a minus 145 or so if it's Bubba Chandler, and then would need at least a plus 156 / plus 157 on the Cardinals. If it is Ashcraft, more of a plus 145 or so in the case of Chandler. And then either way, Ashcraft or Chandler, 8 or less, looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, 957, 958 on the card. The Nationals are going to be on the road against the Mets. Clay Holmes is on the bump for the Mets, and Zach Littell is on the bump for Washington. Washington is an underdog here between plus 153 to a plus 160. Minus 180 to minus 190 is that number on the Mets. If you're looking to lay around half, that's more around plus 120 to plus 125. Total is 7.5. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even and minus 110. Seeing a few 8s out there as well. That under is minus 125. The over is plus 105. I'm taking a shot here on the over. Somebody told it an 8.4. Now it's been miserable for the Mets. They're currently a bottom 3 team in terms of run creation, but much of that came without Juan Soto in the lineup. That should be able to help them out just a little bit. Now, it's deplorable what we saw in that series against the Colorado Rockies. Just not great, to say the least. But still, I do think that these guys are going to rise up a little bit. Bo Bichette has been a big, giant disappointment. I don't know if Marcus Semien gives you anything. I mean, he wasn't really good with the Texas Rangers, but right now, their main guy in terms of getting on base really has been Francisco Alvarez, who's been giving you a 333 on base, 4 home runs. He's been fine. He and Luis Torrance at the catcher spot have been able to hold down the fort, but Mark Vientos, after out start to the season, he's flailed. Ore Polanco's currently on the injury list. Carson Benjay, as a rookie, has not been great, but now you get to face off against the ultimate, shall we say, run-boosting pitcher. That would be Zach Littell, who's giving up 4 home runs for 9 innings. 4! He has right now got an ERA that is above a 7. His fielding independent is above an 8. He's getting fewer than 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Absolutely terrible what we're seeing out of him right now. And he's backed up by a bullpen that has also really not been good. The bullpen is in the bottom 8 in terms of bullpen ERA. Clean beaters, Perez have not been trustworthy. Brad Lord, as a long guy, has been relatively okay, but you can only utilize him once every few days. So, it's really a rock and hard place situation for the bullpen. And for Clay Holmes, I think that there's a little bit of regression with what we've seen thus far. 210 ERA, but a 426 fielding independent. He's not getting a lot of swings and misses. 5.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he has been giving up right around about 3 walks per 9 innings. Faces off against a Nationals lineup that has been really good this year. How about numero tres in terms of run creation? CJ Abrams, he's been able to give you darn near 400 on base. He's up to 7+ home runs. James Wood, he's coming off of a 30 home run season last year, and he might be able to do that once again this year. He's up to 10 bombs, 400 on base out of him. While the rest of the team may not have the power numbers that those 2 guys do, nobody else has more than 3 home runs. You've got plenty of guys to get on base and make sure that these aren't solo shots. Like Adele Lyle has been able to give you a 350 on base. You've had Luis Garcia hitting above a 250. You've been able to get a little bit out of Brady House. He's been a little bit hit or miss, but Jober Vivas, he's hitting above a 285 over a 375 on base. And when it comes to the Mets, surprisingly, the bullpen has not been bad. They're actually in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, these 2 guys just have not cut it. Like, Austin Moore needs to be considered for the closer's role. He has actually been quite good this season. He's supplying a sub-3 ERA. Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley last year at a sub-325 ERA. They're below a 2 ERA thus far this season. Tobias Myers has been a relatively good long guy, but certainly I do think that you're going to get some offensive fireworks, and I think that Zach Littell is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Mets to finally get something right going for them. I did set this total at an 8.4. Like the over, and I was actually willing to lay up to a minus 102 on the Mets run line, so I'm going to take a shot on the Mets run line, surprisingly, and I'm going to be in on the over. 959, 960 on the card. The Brewers play OCers and the Diamondbacks. Merrill Kelly goes for the Diamondbacks, and Chad Patrick's on the bump for the Brewers. Well, it was supposed to be Merrill Kelly. Right now it's listed as to be determined, so this is a game that's presently off the board, and I was handicapping as if you were going to be getting Merrill Kelly in this spot. And if you do indeed get Merrill Kelly, I did set the Brewers at a minus 141 on the money line. We'll be willing to lay up to minus 140 there, plus 142 or better. Looking at the Diamondbacks, and then set a total of a 7.9. So 7.5 or less, like the over, and 8 or higher to the under. With Merrill Kelly, you did have a rough first few starts of the season coming off the injury list. He got completely destroyed against the Chicago White Sox. 8 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, and that's, I'm thinking, why this is a little bit of a TBD spot right now for the Arizona Diamondbacks. If they trot out there pretty much anyone else, it is going to be a downgrade for you, and that probably would push my total to an 8 or less, being a shot on the over. And frankly, for the Diamondbacks, who were 4th in the big leagues last year in terms of run creation, they're also banged up with their lineup as well. You've had Lourdes Gurriel, who's been injured all season long. He's come back from injury, and he just has not looked like himself, anything below the Bedos line of a 200. Nolan Arenado all of a sudden has been able to find the fountain of youth. He, Ketel Marte, both have been able to give you 4 home runs, but even for Marte, a sub 300 on base, that's been a little bit rough for them. They've been mixing and matching with Gabriel Moreno, dealing with an injury at the catcher spot. They're without Carlos Santana at first base, which honestly, Eliarmo Vargas, Jose Fernandez, these are much better hitters, both hitting above like 300, so I mean, that's been fine. But for the Diamondbacks, power numbers are a little bit down, even though Corbin Carroll has been able to give you a 400 on base, and he's been able to give you 3 home runs thus far. And then for the Brewers, this is once again a team that's in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Last year, they were 25th in terms of home runs per at-bat, but they just keep finding a way to be able to move line because they're one of the best base stealing teams in all of baseball. You've been able to have Bryce Terang do a nice job, giving you well above a 275, one of the better base stealers in all of baseball. Sal Frelick hasn't even really gotten going for this team, but you've had William Contreras do a nice job, move the line, give you about a 335 on base, and then functional power out of Gary Sanchez along Jake Bauers. 5 home runs apiece out of both of these guys. Sanchez hits for just a 237, but 384 on base. You've had Bauers along with Terang do a nice job being able to find a way on base, and Brandon Lockridge about a 350 on base. For the Brewers, the bullpen has been a little bit shaky. They've been more around league average with regards to that ERA. They've had Trevor McGill really act up thus far this season, but you still have a lot of guys like Aaron Ashby, Grant Anderson, Abner Uribe that were all able to give you a sub-3 ERA last year, and really other than Uribe, these guys are right back there. Flip side for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you've actually been able to get some relatively solid innings thus far out of Paul Sewald. I don't think that that's going to be a mainstay, but do like to see that to begin the season. Juan Murillo, who was just absolutely terrible last season, he's been better than absolutely terrible thus far this season, so that's helped them out. I like Andrew Hoffman in this bullpen. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jonathan Weisga has been an okay pickup of Kevin Ginkel, still back above a 4 ERA. Taylor Rashi is not necessarily a guy that you could trust in as well, so there are some faults with the Diamondbacks here, and especially with having to use Brandon Pfaadt as a long guy when Zach Allen got knocked out of the game. That takes a little bit of an option away from them there as well. And then for Chad Patrick, right now with the Brewers, he's got a 235 ERA, but a 434 fielding independent. Strikeout stuff is way down. 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings last season, down to about 4.3 this season, but he's been giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, and I do think that he's going to find that swing and miss stuff once again. And for the Diamondbacks, keep in mind, they're having to try to function after coming back from Mexico City. So minus 140 or better, looking at the Brewers, plus 142 or better with the Diamondbacks, and probably going to see an adjustment. If it's not Merrill Kelly, 7.9 is my total, so 7.5 or less, like the over, 8 or higher, the under. 961, 962 on the card. The Cubs are going to be on the road against the Padres, as Walker Buehler goes for the Padres, and Edward Cabrera's on the ball for the Cubs, and Cubs do find themselves as a slim favorite here, between minus 112 to a minus 120. Meanwhile, between plus 102 to a minus 105 is that number on Slam Diego. It is a total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And with the Padres, I did set them at a minus 102. So pretty much even money or better. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line. I recognize that Walker Buehler is back to having a 5.75 ERA. But if you do look at this swing and miss stuff, the underlying numbers, he looks much improved from where he was the last few seasons, up to about 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up the 0.4 home runs per 9 innings. Last 2 seasons, he was giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, so he does look improved there. And then for Edward Cabrera, he's down below 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he should benefit from the fact that he's going to be pitching out here at Petco. He's been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. He's also giving up only 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. What has always ailed Cabrera throughout his career has been the walks issues. He was able to tone that down. 3.1 walks per 9 innings last year. 3.3 this season. That's still not bad. His career average is about 4.4 walks per 9 innings, so he's been been able to do a nice job in terms of working on that. Do have to have a little bit of trepidation with this Cubs bullpen, mainly because it feels like everyone in this Cubs bullpen is right now injured. Porter Hodge, his season's already done. Ethan Roberts is on the injured list. Jordan Wicks is currently on the injured list. Trent Thornton is currently on the injured list. You've also got Hunter Harvey on the injured list. Daniel Palencia. I can just keep going down the list. It's absolutely terrible. You're relying upon Phil Matone, Hobie Milner, and Jacob Webb. And I like Jacob Webb. Jacob Webb, sub-3 ERA last year with the Texas Rangers, but I do think that that's going to catch up with them sooner rather than later. And for the Cubs right now, this is the top 6 team in terms of run creation. Do have to have a little bit of question mark with that. Ian Happ, he's been able to give you 7 home runs, 235 average on base percentage, has been much better. Everyone at the catcher spot is hitting well. Like Moises Ballesteros entered into yesterday, hitting darn near 400 this far this season. Carson Kelly's back above a 400 on base. Miguel Amaya has been functional as well. Pico Armstrong continues to be a disappointment. He and Dansby Swanson have not been able to give you a ton in terms of average. Now Swanson is up to 6 home runs, but he's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Armstrong's giving you less than a 300 on base with no power whatsoever. Nico Horner's been great though, hitting above 300, up to 4 home runs. It's Seiya Suzuki, 4 home runs and 60 at-bats since coming off the injured list. That's solid. And for the Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. still does not have a home run this year. Maybe he gets one on Monday because I'm recording this before that, but 0 home runs at 100 at-bats. That's not great to say the least. And for the Padres, even with going to Mexico City, the power numbers are down. Do have a tray of guys, Ramon Laureano, Xander Bogaerts, Manny Machado, all 4 home runs apiece. And for Machado, he's hitting just a 210. Recognize that the on-base is a little bit better. Bogaerts is actually hitting a 275. He's been fine at Ty France. He was able to have a nice coming out party in that series of Mexico City, but the likes of Nick Castellanos and company have been rough. And if you look at the Padres overall, their bullpen ERA has been jacked up. That's because they gave up the 10 runs in 2 innings in Mexico City on Sunday. Prior to that, they were a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I trust them that much more because things in Mexico City are very, very shaky. Mason Miller has been the best closer in all of baseball. Jason Adam, last 3 seasons, sub 275 ERA. Andre Morejon, he last season had a sub 325 ERA, above a 5 this year. I think that he finds that they just get Wandy Peralta off the injured list. So I do think that for the Padres to do a nice job holding it down here. Somebody told 7.3, like the under, and at even money or better, looking at the Padres on the money line. 963, 964 on the card. The Marlins are going to be on the road against the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani is on the bump for the Dodgers. Jansen Junks, who hopes to not live up to his name for the Miami Marlins. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8. Overs minus 120. The unders even on the 8.5. Unders minus 120. Overs even. Dodgers minus 290 to minus $3 favorites. Plus 235 to plus 240 is that number on Miami. If you're looking to lay 1.5 with the Dodgers, between minus 132 to minus 140 is that run line price. Set mine at a minus 134. I'm seeing that minus 132 out there. I really don't want to be going too far beyond that. I'd probably be willing to go up to a minus 135 personally, but I'm going to be in on that run line. Everyone talks about Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, but Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, has been absolutely tremendous. You take a look at what he's been able to do ever since he got to the LA Dodgers, and he's legitimately been at a Cy Young level in his 2 seasons with the LA Dodgers. A 203 ERA, 191 fielding dependent, 11 strikeouts, and 1.9 walks per 9 innings with 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Faces off against a Miami Marlins lineup that, they're doing a nice job in terms of reaching base. Xavier Edwards is hitting well above a 300. You've been able to have Javier Sanja in the small sample size that he's had. I know that he's been a little bit banged up, but he's been hitting darn near a 320 as well. Jacob Mercy, even though he doesn't really get on base too often, when he does, he steals bags. He's got 10 stolen bases thus far this season. They're getting Kyle Stowers off the injured list. That should help them out because the lone guy with over 3 home runs without him in the fold has been Liam Hicks, 5 home runs, but Owen Casey has seen a little bit of regression here recently. Augustin Ramirez, after the 20-plus home run season last year, he's been a little bit of a disappointment, and for the Dodgers, they're right now averaging more than a full run at per game less at home rather than away from home. I think that this irons out a little bit more. Andy Paz hitting well above a 300 along with Hyun-Sung Kim, and Paz 5 home runs this far. Shohei Ohtani, I think that he should be hitting here. You might want to be noting that because he has had a few times where he's pitched and he hasn't hit, but 6 home runs, obviously over at 370 on base. Will Smith last year at a 4 on base has been a little bit down this year. He and Freddie Freeman hanging between about a 265 to 270, but both of these guys should be able to do a nice job here. Max Muncy, 9 home runs, and for the Dodgers, it's been a little bit of shakiness with the bullpen. You've got Edwin Diaz currently out of the fold, but I do think that Tanner Scott is going to be able to recapture that form that he had a few seasons ago when he was one of the better relievers on all of baseball. Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia, both of these guys have sub 325 ERA last season, even with Brock Stewart currently out of the fold. I think that Edgar Enriquez has a little bit of upside, and Marlins, they've had a tough time with their bullpen as well. These guys like Calvin Fauché, Pete Fairbanks that had a sub 325 ERA last season have seen that hike up quite a bit. John King has been really good, sub 2 ERA thus far, but even Anthony Bender north of a 5 ERA after he was sub 350 last year. I do think that irons out a little bit, and to the credit of Jansen Junk, he's not going to put guys on cheaply. Like last season, he did have an ERA well above a 4 because he doesn't have a lot of deception, only about 6.2, 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but last year 0.7 home runs, 1.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's given up 0.7 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings here this year. So I did set a total of an 8.1. Do like the 8.5 after the under, but with the Dodgers willing to lay up to minus 135 on that run line. 965, 966 on the card. The Rays are going to be on the road against the Guardians. Tanner Bybee is on the bump for the Guardians, and Nick Martinez is on the bump for the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays do find themselves between plus 110 to a plus 125 underdog, and between minus 130 to minus 140 is the number on Cleveland, with 7.5 being the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even a minus 110 for the Guardians. Set them at a minus 132. So I'm willing to lay that minus 130 money line, and really not willing to go a whole heck of a lot further for Nick Martinez. He's never really been a strikeout artist. Last year, 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's hovering right around that neighborhood again with 6 strikeouts per 9, but does a great job not beating himself. Right now, 0.9 home runs, 2.4 walks per 9 innings. 2.10 ERA, I don't think is sustainable. The fielding depends more around about a 3.89 without much contact he gives up. And for Tanner Bybee, it's been a relatively rough start to the season for him, but going back to last year, he had some very demonstrative home and road splits. Last year, over a 5 ERA with 1.9 home runs per 9 innings allowed away from him. At home, closer to about a 3.32 ERA with less than 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. Thus far this season, 4.45 ERA. His strikeout stuff is once again down, 7.7 strikeouts per 9, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And he does face off against the Tampa Bay Rays team that has been quite good with regards to their offense thus far this season. They have been a top 12 team in terms of run creation. Junior Caminero, 44 home runs last season, and he's back up to A+ thus far this season. You've been able to have Yandy Diaz give you over a 4 on base. They've had a tough time with the catcher spot in recent years. Nick Fortes now hitting at 290. Johnny DeLuca in the outfield hitting at 285. These have been really nice finds for the team. Heck, Jonathan Aranda, 7 home runs. His batting average is way down from the season ago, but he's doing a great job being able to supply the boom as well. And then on the flip side for the Cleveland Guardians, they're back in the bottom 8 in terms of run creation. Chase DeLauder had 5 home runs in like the first week of the season. He's still stuck on 5 home runs. Steven Kwan is hitting at 217 at the top. Now, Anel Martinez, Daniel Schneemann, both hitting above 275. That helps the team out. And Brian Rocchio's actually giving you something. That's been nice, but I mean, the likes of Bo Naylor, Kyle Manzardo, Reese Hoskins, who you need to give you some power, they're both not hitting for power, and they're not hitting for average. All 3 of these guys hitting below 210. Neither of these guys hitting for above 2 home runs as far this season. Jose Ramirez starting to get online, and for the Guardians, it is a little bit alarming that this bullpen is right now in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, because Cade Smith has really taken some steps back. Now, Hunter Gaddis was on the injured list to begin the season. Getting him back, I think, is going to help them out, even though he did give up a pair of runs yesterday. But Colin Holderman has been able to give you sub 3 ERA. I like Eric Zabrowski in this bullpen. And right now for the Rays, this is a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Griffin Jax is just absolutely terrible. They should probably utilize him as a starter once again. Now, the former Orioles and Cole Sulzer, Brian Baker, they've been able to give you a sub 375 ERA. And I do think that Hunter Biggie has some upside as well, but Garrett Clevenger being on the injured list hurts them. Do feel like even though the Guardians have struggled on offenses, it's too low of total, semi-total 7.8. So I do like the over. And for the Guardians, willing to lay up to minus 132 on the money line, 967, 968 on the card. It is the Astros. They're going to be on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. The Wizard of Oz, Shane Baz, goes for the Orioles, and Kai Tang goes for Houston. Houston, an underdog between plus 115 to plus 125, minus 130 to minus 140. That number on Baltimore 9 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105, and I'm actually going to take an under here. I did set my total at an 8.8. Conditions not necessarily overly ideal out there in Baltimore. It's not what it was a few weeks ago, but still, you would like to see these conditions be a little bit better for hitters, and it has been an Astros team that has actually done a really good job with their offense. Right now, top 7 team in terms of run creation. You've had Yordan Alvarez be able to supply 10 home runs already thus far this season. He's giving you well above a 4 on base. Jose Altuve is looking like the Jose Altuve that we all know and love as well. So, I mean, these guys have been able to do a great job there, even though you're not getting a lot of power out of Carlos Correa. Give you over a 340 on base. So, the guys that we all know and love are there. And then Christian Walker, 5+ home runs. He's over a 330 on base. Yenier Diaz still not hitting for any sort of on base percentage, but I mean, when he does hit the ball, it typically does result in things like singles. So, he's been able to do an okay job there. It's just a bullpen with the Astros, though, that is absolutely terrible, and that's the one big question that you do have to have with Kai Tang. What sort of length is he going to be able to give you? Because he's actually been relatively solid out of the bullpen thus far this season. For Tang, he's been able to go out there and he's been able to be quite effective for the team. He's one of the few guys on the Astros roster with an ERA below 4. 2.16 ERA. He's made 11 appearances thus far, but he really hasn't gotten past 2 2/3 innings in any of his appearances thus far this season. Now, by trade, he was a starter with the San Francisco Giants a season ago. go, but not fully stretched out, and with that 2.16 ERA, more of a 4.63 fielding dependent, 1.6 home runs, 3.2 walks per 9 innings. Now, with the Giants, he was getting 11.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but also 5 walks per 9 innings as well, so that's going to be a little bit of a bad situation there. And for the Astros, not having Josh Hader out there, it's just absolutely killed this bullpen because, well, with Brian Abreu, he's right now posting up an ERA above a 10. That's been a massive regression for them. AJ Bluebaugh has been awful as a long guy. Steven Okert last year was relatively solid, and he's back down below a 3 ERA, so he's been able to do an okay job there. Brian King has always been relatively reliable, but Aniel De Los Santos is right now getting absolutely lit up as well, and they go up against an Orioles team that they themselves have had their issues on offense. This is a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation. Jackson Holliday, Jordan Westberg being on the injury list certainly hurts things, and while Gunnar Henderson has 9 home runs, he's got a .210 batting average with a on-base percentage below 300. Leody Taveras is right now hitting above a .285. I do think that you're going to be seeing some regression there. And then Samu Basayo, he's had some moments, but he's hitting below the nose line of 200. Pete Alonso is hitting like a 200 with 3 home runs. You just need a little bit more there, but I trust in this Orioles bullpen much more. Ryan Helsley is starting to look like the Ryan Helsley we all know and love. Anthony Nunez has been good in this bullpen along with Yunier Cano. Don't you know these guys are giving you sub 350 ERA. Uncle Rico Garcia has been solid as well. And for the Wizard of Oz, he's always been able to get strikeouts. It's just all about the command. Since the beginning of the 2025 season, he is posting up an ERA above a 470, but the fielding dependent is about a half a point lower, 9.5 strikeouts, but he's given up more like 1.3 home runs, over 3.5 walks per 9 innings. I do think that he's going to be able to tone down on it just a little bit. 369 fielding dependent compared to a 506 ERA this season. So did set a 12 and 8.8, like the under with the Orioles. I'm a little late, up to a minus 133 on the money line. 969, 970 on the card. The Red Sox are on the road against the Blue Jays. Trey Savage makes his first start of the season for the Jays, and Peyton Dooley is on the bum for Boston. Boston does find themselves as a underdog here between even money to plus 110, minus 120 to minus 125. That number on Toronto, and 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 120. The under is even. I'm going to be willing to go with the Blue Jays. I set them at a minus 136 on the money line. Now, hilariously, Trey Savage has pitched more postseason innings throughout his career than he has during the regular season. Like, during the regular season, he only got 3 starts for 14 innings. During the postseason, he was able to go out there for 27 to 2/3 innings, and in that postseason run, 358 ERA, 360 fielding dependent, 12.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. If you're able to do that during the postseason, I think that's very fair to say that you're going to be rock solid. Now, for you, Savage, in his minor league rehab starts, he did not look great. 750 ERA, he was giving up over 2 home runs per 9 innings. Still had solid swing and miss stuff, but it wasn't quite what we saw in the postseason last year, and I have to figure that they're going to ease him back. I'd be surprised if he pitches much more than like 3 or 4 innings. And for Peyton Dooley, first start of the season, absolutely magnificent. 6 innings, 11 punch-outs. He gives up just 1 run, but keep in mind, 6.6 ERA with over 2 home runs and 4.5 walks allowed per 9 innings all of last season, so I don't want to overreact to 1 start. And for the Red Sox, the offense is getting online here. They have scored 4+ runs in their last 3 games. I'm fully convinced that the team knew that Alex Cora was going to get canned on Saturday when they had that 17-run outburst, so there's that aspect of it. They still have some of the infielders that are really struggling mightily. Marcelo Myers hitting below at 235. Caleb Durbin, Trevor Story, both hitting below the middle sign of a 200, but Wilson Contreras, 5+ home runs, 370 on base. Weiler Abreu, he's been able to hit above a 300 functional power there, and then You've been able to sit down Rafael, move the line with the 350 on base. Blue Jays have really been lackluster with their offense because they've got guys that are getting on base like Eloy Jimenez, Alon Flagler Jr. are both hitting at 333. Vlad over a 4 on base, but just 2 home runs this season. Miles Draw, Ernie Clement, Jesus Sanchez are only above a 270, but again, not a lot of pop there. Dalton Varsho has been able to give you a little bit in terms of power, but that's been an issue for the Blue Jays. It does feel like they're starting to really be able to figure out their bullpen as well because Jeff Hoffman just has not been the answer, but Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, sub 225 ERAs out of both of those guys. Brayden Fisher has been able to give you a sub 2 ERA. Mason Flaherty has been awful, and you can't trust in Tommy Naz. Meanwhile, for the Red Sox last year, they were second in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and I'd taken a little bit of setback, but still solid. Aroldis Chapman, if it wasn't for Mason Miller, he'd be the top closer in all of baseball. As of right now, you've got the likes of Greg Weiser, Garrett Woodlock, Danny Columbo, at sub 325 ERAs last season. But again, with Peyton Tolley, just a really small sample size. I don't know if either guy is going to be long for this game. I think that Tolley sees regression is Savage. I think that he's just going to be on a tight innings count, but I do think that the Blue Jays rebound after yesterday's lack of performance at the plate. So I told it at 8.4, like the over, and for the Blue Jays, one to lay up to minus 135 on the money line. 971, 972 on the card. The Angels are going to be on the road against the White Sox as Davis Martin goes for the Southsiders and Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Halos. Halos do find themselves between minus 135 to minus 145 favorites and between plus 118 to plus 125. That number on Chicago, 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, unders minus 115, the overs minus 105. On the 7.5, overs minus 120, and the unders even. And with the Angels, set them at a minus 164. I'm going to be willing to lay the money line. Now, I recognize that Jose Soriano can't forever continue a 0.24 ERA with 1 run allowed in his 6 starts. At 1 run, a solo home run. He has been much improved with his swing and miss stuff thus far. About 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's been able to do a great job with that regard. Now, he's backed up by a bullpen that's rough, but guess what? The White Sox bullpen is also very, very rough right now for the Angels. They yak away that game in Sunday Night Baseball. That's not great, but even with that, right now they're hovering right around about 28th in terms of bullpen ERA with a 5.38. White Sox 5.15 ERA, that's 24. So you're looking at just 2 forms of poop. The only difference is the scent right now. And for the LA Angels, Drew Pomeranz, after he had that nice season with the Cubs last year, he has completely toilet bowled this year. Ryan Zephyrian has never really been a trustworthy guy, so I don't think that you can trust in him whatsoever. And you just go down the list, having Kirby Yates, Ben Joyce on the injured list, that's been hurting them. Now they're relying upon Nick Sandlin for innings. Chief Silseth has been okay, but that's about it. And for the Chicago White Sox, Seranthony Dominguez is your closer. Not much more needs to be said there, but it will be. Jerome Leisure has leisurely had an ERA above a 5. I would say their best relief piece is Chris Murphy. He's on the injured list. Grant Taylor has actually been solid as an opener, but Jordan Hicks looks washed. Sean Newcomb over a 4.30 ERA. And for the White Sox, this team is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of batting average. Now they've been able to supply, boom, as you've got Muntaka Murakami, who's up to 11 home runs as far this season. Like half of his hits are home runs. It's absolutely insane. Colson Montgomery, he's been able to do a nice job, give you 7 home runs, but again, hitting about a 225. Miguel Vargas is way down, hitting about a 200. Edgar Quiero was really good at getting on base last season. He's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. And then for the LA Angels, this team is 3rd in the big leagues in terms of road run creation right now. They're averaging over 5.5 runs per game away from home. Yoel Moncada has actually found a way to move the line. He's hitting just a 200, but his on-base percentage is much better than that. They have Logan Oppie on the injured list. He had a 260 on base last year, so Travis D'Arnaud probably going to be an upgrade. Vaughn Grisham in a small sample size is hitting above a 300. Mike Trout, he's been able to give you over 4 on base. He's up to 9 home runs. Joe Adele setting fire to the rain. 4 home runs himself. He's robbed 3 as well. He's been up with his 265 batting average. I think that you do get runs in this game, even though Jose Soriano, I do think that he's going to once again go out there and dominate. I set my total at a 7.6, between a 7.5 to an 8. Personally, I would rather have a 7.5 to the over because I do think that Davis Martin is also doing for a little bit of regression. Like with Martin, he's gotten off to a nice start to the season as well. He's right now hovering right around about a 210 to a 215 or so ERA, but the fielding independent is more than a full point higher because he's only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. As a matter of fact, 201 ERA, 306 fielding independent, but I do think that the Angels get to him a little bit. So with the Angels, don't want to mess around with the run line with that bullpen, but that said, I'm going to be willing to lay the money line up to a minus 164. I do like the over. Set my total 7.6, 973, 974 on the card. The Mariners are going to be on the road against the Twins. Joe Ryan goes for the Twins, and Logan Gilbert is on the bump for the Mariners. Mariners do find themselves as a road favorite here of anywhere between minus 126 to a minus 131, plus 108 to a plus 120 is that number on Minnesota. 7.5 is the total, unders minus 120, the over is even. I'm going to be willing to trust in the Twins. I set them at a minus 126. Logan Gilbert last year, 224 ERA with about 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings at home, 4.74 ERA over 1.7 home runs per 9 innings allowed away from home. Clearly a different pitcher, and if you look at him this season, 4.36 ERA. Now the 301 fielding independent indicates a positivity. Less than home run allowed per 9 innings, 9.5 strikeouts, 1.8 walks per 9 innings. Same goes for Joe Ryan, 3.90 ERA, but a 3.22 fielding independent, 0.8 home runs, 2.2 walks allowed per 9 innings, a little bit over 9 strikeouts per 9. Mariners have really struggled with their road run production as well. They entered into Monday averaging 3.25 runs per game away from home. That is 3rd worst in all baseball after they were 2nd in terms of runs per game away from home. Big dumper Cal Raleigh's up to 6 home runs, but still a sub 300 on base. Julio Rodriguez just always starts slow. He's up to a 330 on base, but not really hitting for power. Randy Arozarena about a 365 on base. JP Crawford, he's at a 348 on base with a 183 batting average. Rob Refsnyder has been miserable at the plate. Leo Rivas has been miserable at the plate. So we've got a lot of guys that are struggling. It's honestly been Luke Raley, 5+ home runs. He's been able to step up. Connor Joe has been able to give you a little bit of something. And then on the flip side for the Twins, right now they're a top 12 team in terms of run creation. I'm not quite sure how. Matt Wallner, Cody Clemens, they have been able to give you like 3 home runs apiece, but they're both hitting for less than a 300 on base. Josh Bell about a 340 on base. He's been functional. Brooks Lee, he's hitting about a 245, but not a lot of on base. Functional power out of him. Byron Buxton, after a miserable start to the season, 6 home runs. He's only, though, give you about a 290 on base. I don't know if Tristan Gray can keep this up. Lucas Shaw has been giving you a 260 on base with no power whatsoever, so it's been an issue. But what's an issue for the Mariners? Andres Munoz, who is always nails in the back half of this bullpen. Right now, he's got an ERA above a 6. Like, he and Matt Brash are typically the best 8th and 9th inning duo in all of baseball. And Mariners are still in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Gabe Spire, Edward Bazardo had a sub-3 ERA last season. Jose Ferrer has been pretty rock solid as well. So outside of Andres Munoz, they've been pretty solid. And for the Minnesota Twins, this is a team that is in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. There's just not a lot of reliable guys. Justin Topa, Cody Funderburk last year had about a 4 ERA. Eric Orze, he was solid with the Rays, about a 3 ERA last year. He's back there this year. Taylor Rogers is always reliable, but this year he's really seen some progression. You have to wonder if age is catching up with him. And Anthony Banda has been miserable since coming on over from the LA Dodgers. So it's an interesting circumstance here. Do think they get some runs up. I do think that there's positivity for the Mariners with regards to their lineup, but I also do think that the Twins get to Logan Gilbert here. Set my total 7.7, like the over end with the Twins. I made them the favorite of -126, taking them at plus money on the money line. 975, 976 on the card. The Yankees are on the road against the Rangers. Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers, and Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees. Yankees are between -118 to -126. Even money to +110 is that number on Texas. 7.5 is the total, over and under, anywhere between -105 to -115. Set the Rangers at a -122. I'm going to be willing to ride with them on the money line for Cam Schlittler and Jacob deGrom. They're both having really nice seasons thus far. Like with Cam Schlittler, he's got a 177 ERA with a fielding independent that's even lower. He's getting 10.3 strikeouts, so 1 walk per 9 innings. He's not allowing the deep ball whatsoever, so he has been magnificent. Jacob deGrom is back to where his peak strikeout numbers were, 12.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. Recognize he's giving up over a home run per 9, so his fielding independence is above a 3, but 2.13 ERA, you love to be able to see that. I think the difference here is the bullpen. With the Yankees, they entered in this series 13th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. It's not like they've been terrible. David Benner, along with Camilo Duvall, our guys have been closers throughout their career, so they know how to be able to shut things down, but it's clear that they're missing Luke Weaver, and clear that Luke Weaver is having a bad time with the New York Mets as well, so nobody's really benefiting there. You did have Fernando Cruz last year, posts up a sub-3 ERAs up to more around a 4 ERA this season. Brett Hendrick, Tim Hill, they've been able to give you sub-275 ERAs, but some of these long guys, Ryan Yarbrough, Paul Blackburn, they just have not been able to get the job done. Good news is you're probably not going to need them in this game, and for the Texas Rangers, they entered in the series number 1 in the big leagues in terms of open ERA. Like Cole Winn was able to produce a sub-2 ERA last season. He's been pretty rock solid once again this year. They are dealing with a little bit of an injury to Chris Martin, but all of a sudden Gavin Collier has come from out of nowhere. He's been able to have 6 shutout appearances. Robert Garcia is right now giving you sub-345 ERA. Been a little bit banged up himself, but still has been solid. Like the pickup of Jacob Junis in the offseason. He's got about a 2 ERA. He had a sub-3 ERA last year with the Cleveland Guardians. For the Rangers, this is still a team that's in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation, but do have a pair of guys, Jake Berger along with Corey Seager, then are providing power. Seager, 6 home runs, just a 220 batting average. That'll be going northward. Jake Berger sitting at 225. I don't know if that goes northward, but Brandon Nimmo, he's been a nice acquisition. I have no idea why the Mets wanted Marcus Semien for him, but they did. And for the Rangers, they have benefited greatly. Wyatt Langford is off to a rough start to the season, and he's been banged up, 275 on base whenever he's been out there, so that's been an issue. So, I mean, even with him out, someone like an Andrew McCutchen can easily take his place. Ezekiel Lurin, he's been seeing some more at-bats recently as a result as well. He's hitting about 265. John Peterson's up to a 360 on base. He has done nothing since coming over for the Rangers. The power is not there, but at the very least, he's starting to move the line once again along Josh Young, who's hitting about a 300. So, do you think that both of these pitchers are going to be solid? I also think that we're going to see a little bit of regression out of both of these pitchers. Let's call it what it is. So, I just set my total at 7.7. Recognize that it's a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. And for the Rangers, I did set them here at a -122, so I like them at plus money on the money line. 977, 978 on the card. It's the Royals on the road against the Athletics. Aaron Savali goes for the Athletics. Chris with Gabe Bubich is on the bump for the Royals. Royals are between -115 to -124. Even money to +106, that number on the Athletics. 9.5 is the total. Under is -115 to -120. Over is even to -105, and I set the Royals at a -118, so I'm going to be willing to lay up to the -115 on the money line. I'm just a believer in Chris with K. Bubich. Last year, 255 ERA, sub-3 field independent, 0.5 home runs, 9 strikeouts per 9, up to about a 408 ERA thus far this season, but still 382 field independent, 0.9 home runs, 9.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, so I think that he's going to be able to find it, and Aaron Savali has had a nice start to the season. It probably helps the fact that he's not with 3 different organizations right now because he bounced around from team to team, but still, I don't have a ton of of faith in him. 3.86 ERA, 3.95 fielding dependent. He's been able to keep the ball in the yard much better this year. 1.1 home runs per 9 innings allowed, but now he's pitching in Sacramento. We've noticed with all these Sacramento pitchers, they pitch much worse at home rather than away from home, and it's not like he's backed up by some sort of amazing bullpen. Elvis Alvarado, along with Hogan Harris last year, they had right around about 4 ERAs along with Justin Sterner. Now they're relying upon Scott Barlow, Mark Leiter Jr. These are not guys that you want to be relying upon. And when it comes to the Kansas City Royals, this has been an offense that has been absolutely awful away from home. 2.5 runs per game away from home. That is dead stinking last in all baseball by more than a half a run. So that's not great, but Carter Jensen, 6 home runs thus far this season. Since the oversleep situation, he's been fine. He and Jack Caglione, Isaac Collins, they're all give you at least a 340 on base. Heck, the Lane train, Lane Thomas has been able to give you 360 on base, but they're just not producing runs away from home because Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, who they really rely upon, both of these guys hitting below a 200, both of these guys below a 270 on base, a combined 7 home runs between the two of them. Bobby Witt Jr. is getting on base with a 370 on base, but just 1 home run. You need him to give you a little bit more power, and here's the issue that you got right now with the Royals. Out of 30 teams, 30th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. The starters have actually been quite good for this team. Matt Strahm was a nice pickup from the Phillies last year. He was posting up a sub 325 ERA. He's up to a 466 this season. Like Daniel Lynch, sub 1 ERA is a long guy. Eli Morgan has been able to give you sub 3 ERA, and really other than that, everyone else has been awful. Alex Lang, sub 71 ERA. They tried Bailey Falter for an appearance or two. That was not great. Carlos Aceves is currently on the injured list. John Schreiber, a 5 ERA. Lucas Erceg over a 450 ERA. So, I mean, both of these bullpens are just getting absolutely trash canned. And then for the Athletics, you've got a lineup that has been hit or miss this season. Obviously, they've been much better at home rather than away from home. Shea Langeliers, though, Shea is banged for a 300 average and 8 home runs. He has been great. Nick Kurtz, after a rough start to the season, back above a 400 base. He's been able to give you 5 home runs. They've got Brent Rooker on the injured list, but Carlos Cortez, 4 home runs, 433 on base. That's not going to be long lasting, but Jacob Wilson, after a slow start to the season, not drawing any walks whatsoever, but he's back to hitting at 275. But Tyler Soderstrom hitting below 225. Lawrence Butler is not found it. Denzel Clark has had some issues. So, I mean, it's been a little bit of a herky-jerky lineup. They're getting Zach Galoff back as well. So, despite total 9.1, I think that Bubic keeps things out in front of them, and Royals are just not generating offense. So, surprisingly, here in Sacramento, I almost never take unders. I think we've only had one under here this year, but I'm going to take an under here, and I do like the Royals on the money line, set them at a minus 118. Wrap things up with 979, 980. The Atlanta Braves are playing us to the Detroit Tigers. Casey Mize is on the bump for Detroit, and Martin Perez is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves, and Braves are as low as minus 115 on the money line, as high as minus 126, plus 105 to even money is that number on Detroit. 9 is the total. Over is anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 110, minus 110 to minus 115 on the under. Seeing a few straight 8.5s at over is minus 125. The under is plus 105, and with the Tigers, I did set them at a plus 153. I'm going to be willing to ride with the Atlanta Braves. I recognize that Martin Perez is not going out there and getting a whole bunch of strikeouts or anything like that, but he's been fine for the team. Well, just 5.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 270 ERA, 1.2 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings, and we've seen Martin Perez over the last few seasons be really good in the first half of the season and then toiletable in the second half of the season. We might be seeing that once again. And then Casey Mize has been solid thus far this season. 251 ERA, 295 fielding opponent, 10 strikeouts, 3 walks per 9, 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, but it's also a Detroit Tigers bullpen that they've taken a little bit of setback this season. They are getting Brendan Hennefy back. He was pretty solid for the team last season, so that should be able to help out a little bit. You've got the likes of A. Wolves, Brian Herder that were able to give you a sub 325 ERA last season, and Kyle Finnegan, since coming over from the Washington Nationals, dating back to last season, he's been able to give this team a sub 3 ERA. He's at a sub 1 thus far this season, but Vest has really regressed. They tried to out there Drew Anderson, who's been absolutely terrible. The Emmanuel De Jesus experiment did not work out. Connor Siebold, he's got over a 4 ERA. And then you've got Kenley Jansen as a closer. Not much more needs to be said there. And for the Detroit Tigers, they've just seen a big drop-off with regards to their power numbers. You do have Kerry Carpenter up to 6 home runs, so that's been nice. They were able to get a little bit more online in that series against the Reds. Spencer Torkelson, after a really slow start to the season, 5 home runs, 360 on base. He's back online. Dylan Dingler, he's been able to give you 5 bombs. Riley Green is hitting a 300. Just 3 home runs. You expect a little bit more there, but you've got Kevin McGonigal hitting over a 330. You've been able to have Javi Baez move the line, hitting over a 260. So it does feel like the offense starting to get a little bit more online. It just does not compare to the Atlanta Braves, who are currently numero uno in all baseball in terms of run creation when they were at their peak in 2023. 5.75 runs per game. They're hovering right around 5.7 runs per game once again this season. Drake Baldwin hitting above a 300 with 7 home runs. Matt Olson, 8 bombs, 375 on base. Ozzie Albies is hitting above 300. And what's scary about this, Ronald Acuna Jr. has just 2 home runs and is hitting at 240. Imagine when he gets things rocking and rolling And Dom Smith, 4 home runs, over a .340 batting average. You've gotten some good production on Mauricio Dubon as well. So, a lot of these guys are just stepping up. And then for the Atlanta Braves, this has been a team that's been in the top 5 in terms of bullpen ERA ever since coming over from the Rockies. Tyler Kinley has a sub 250 ERA in a Braves uniform. You've had Robert Suarez do a nice job locking it down with Racio Iglesias on the injured list. Heck, the Godfather, Dylan Dodd, has looked pretty solid in his 2 long relief appearances as well. Probably don't want to be trotting out there Jose Suarez, but I know that other than that, the likes of Aaron Bummer and company have been really good in this bullpen. So do think that the Braves get the job done here. Set them at a -153, like the Braves on the money line. Made my total at 8.7, so on the 9, also in on the under. And that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Johnny Venezia, who does such great work over at Rotowire and the Breaking Bet Podcast. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GNet_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.